Alex Ansary here. It is the 9th day of July in the year 2018. We'll try not to go on for hours and hours today, but I am going to read a passage from the book Practical Psychic Self-Defense by Robert Bruce. Right? So instead of start at page 1, I'm just going to read a portion from this. It's a subject that I've been, talking about for a number of years. I also understand that there's a rising interest in commentary like this, content like this. It's also kind of difficult full time to just simply report the news, and how much value, is there in just reporting the news. So, as a brief introduction, throughout my whole life, since I've been creating content, I've always looked at things from an outside the box perspective, in terms of what's really going on. It's never really ever been from a perspective of the left versus the right, or the right versus the left. So it's not like a new thing for someone like me to be outside the box of those camps. I've always looked at it as a battle of good and evil. And I feel like a big part of my wake up was after 9/11, but even before that period in time, I was like having my own Neo moment, if you will, of waking up within the Matrix. Spiritual attacks on my person at the age of like 8 years old. Different other types of phenomena or unique challenges that I feel that I faced as a young person for a reason, as a soul. So there's going to be certain reasons why we go through certain things. So people have different levels of experience. So what I'm going to do for you now, right, instead of go through all of my experiences, shared a few things the other day, I'm going to read to you just a few portions here without overloading you with opinions on this particular topic, which a lot more people, I would say for a reason, are becoming more interested in. Whereas years ago, they may not have been looking in this direction. Prior to 2012, for example. And remember, with the 2012 crowd, it wasn't just about, the doomsday projections being put out by the History Channel. It was also people involved in certain spiritual circles that thought that the world was reaching some sort of collective shift in consciousness. And ultimately, in recent years, we've seen a shift in consciousness, but it's not all for the better. I think that we're seeing like an increase in some zombie-like behavior, and there's a real lack of love, lack of compassion, and there's more of you that get that specific element of what's missing, right? So we can see clearly, we can see clearly a separation in consciousness. So let me get to some reading. An understanding of the energy body is important, as negatives seek to attach themselves to it on a variety of ways, thus providing the mechanism for negative parasitism, influence, being parasited on, influence, and even possession. Just as there are different types of energy within the energy body, attachments may affect the host in different ways, physically, emotionally, mentally, and psychically. Despite this, we are not rendered helpless. The use of body awareness actions disrupts the energy body substance and serves as a countermeasure by interfering with neg activity. Consequently, the establishment of neg connections and the draining of one's energy from these may be prevented. And then it goes to another section, employing the energy body. I think things are tuning in for the positive. Please check walkaway videos on YouTube. Interesting. I'll check that out. Walk away, kind of like walking away from our chains, walking away from maybe even something beyond politics. So I will check that out. And so I'm just reading here a few different sections that I hope people can get something from in just a few minutes, not listening for hours and hours and hours. Okay, employing the energy body, also known as the etheric body, is a complex structure that can be likened to a subtle reflection of a system in which every part of the physical body is represented. So let me just throw in some stuff here. I wanted to actually start further. I know that when I'm smoking a lot of cigarettes, and I haven't done that in recent months, or my energy is draining through some other things, it affects the energy body, and certain things power up the energy body. Like this is absolutely like how things are with my energy. It's not just a few things. I mean, even like not even eating enough can weaken one's energy field, not having a balanced diet. So it's a number of different factors, and some people are more sensitive than others. Other people can, easily smoke a pack of cigarettes or work in unhealthy environments or have 5 cell phones on them for whatever reason. Others, right, they have an enhanced level of sensitivity that other people think may be a curse, but we can actually turn around and make it a gift. But when it's not serving us as a strength, this enhanced sensation can manifest as a psychic attack. Before I go back reading, what are some things that can enhance our perception? What are some things that come to mind for you right away? What I'll think about is things like full moons, things like geomagnetic storms, things of that nature that affect the pineal gland, things that affect perception, things that affect melatonin production in the body based on the amount of light. These are real, physiological, proven, scientific influences of the changes in the field and how it affects us. There's also an interesting lecture by Manly P. Hall on how morality and our actual actions, things of that nature, how it affects our magnetic field, the field around the human body. So, are some people forgetting about the conversation about protecting themselves and protecting their field if some people think that they're being gang stalked? Yes. There are some people that are at the level of being a victim and actually being attacked by parasites and not even being on page 1 of what should they do about it? What should they remove from their field of vision? And some people aren't ready for help. Some people actually have some strong attachment issues. So unless they really break the chains, if you will, they're going to have difficulty even sitting down and hearing out a YouTube video that might give them the information that they need. But I've made separate videos about and since I've made that video, and I'm glad there's new subscribers, but that video that I made saying gang stalking sounds like psychic attack, wow, that's 4 years ago. I'll also note that I was home free during that time, without a home in the city of my birth, and I got deeper in discussing things from a Gnostic perspective. And then it seemed that more people were alienated from wanting to be around me, seeing the good in me, maybe assuming that if I was living in my vehicle, I was doing drugs. And it's difficult to really articulate with our own mind, like what it is that we're doing when we're having that experience of living home free or in a vehicle. It could be a deep, profound spiritual experience, but others may not understand that. So I found myself more drawn to a lot of this information, but ultimately did the sense of being spiritually attacked lead to me initially leaving Portland? That's a big part of my story. But in the end, some of those things that we go through, those spiritual attacks, can be the very thing that sets us free. The other thing that I want to mention before we go back to reading, if this is the primary reason that you subscribed, right, there's a lot of things that I have an interest in. And sometimes it is going completely opposite of what the audience is interested in. But a lot of the mainline conspiracy content by itself doesn't really take anyone anywhere without a spiritual backbone or kind of like a spiritual grounding. In fact, someone can easily be led to the dark side, and they are. If they just dabble in certain conspiracy truths, they can easily fall into conspiracy falsehoods. If they don't have this type of spiritual backbone to ground themselves in basic fundamentals like compassion, like love, like knowing what goes around comes around. So if someone's going to walk into the research community and ignore the gnosis, ignore the knowledge, ignore the truth, while looking for more like a Coca-Cola, like Snickers, like brand of truth, then they can end up in a unhealthy situation in mind, body, and spirit. And I think that that's a good way to describe the collective body of the online research community within our own modern culture. Welcome, James. Welcome to the live stream. Most thoughts are not ours. That's why we have to discipline our mind. And Archon. Yes, thoughts left unchecked can be our greatest enemy. And I heard somewhere else, we're affected by things, whether we know it or not. The thing is, are we being affected by the right things? And we need to make sure that we're tuning in and being affected by the right things. Now, I'd like to listen to more programs that are out there, but I can only take so much political information. Even when I'm analyzing someone else running propaganda, I only take in so much of it, right? I try to keep it in check. There was a time in my life, I'd say like, a few years ago, but more so like 10 years ago, where I would just listen constantly to supposed patriot alternative media content. A lot of it was really, really dark without even realizing it, because really it was difficult to see beyond for some of us. If you were listening to some of those programs in 2006 and 2007, there wasn't much of a hope in beyond 2012, actually, Mayan calendar aside, like the way that the picture was painted. And I've seen how people that haven't learned to protect their mind and keep their mind in check have been led today into these dark alleyways. You can even say the dark corner of the YouTube. The dark side of YouTube. It's actually a God shot for me that we're in this much of a paranormal reality, that there are, because I'm someone that's quote unquote been involved in the truth movement for many, many years. So there are countless people that I've interviewed. For example, when I was doing my program in Portland, or countless people that used to listen to my program and the things that I was talking about going beyond the illusions of separation, being opposed to these never-ending wars. This never-ending, seemingly long sea of guild actors calling themselves presidential candidates, right? So when Bush is the president, and I've told the story a lot, people were acting like they were waking up together and taking the red pill. And then all of a sudden, what can seem like a positive thing can turn into a negative thing and seem like a spiritual war by simply speaking your gnosis and not getting behind the political narrative. But what we're discussing now, this very separation within our society over political differences, is a spiritual attack upon the body of man. There was something I was going to respond to, or was halfway in the middle of discussing. Water fasts are great. I haven't done that, right? But I want to do more fasts from the internet. I'm not a vegan, but even longer periods without meat, water fasts or juice fasts, things of that nature. Maybe with some green superfood. When I'm able to eat healthier, I will. Okay. So eating healthier, exercise, all contributing to a healthier magnetic field. Exercises for clearing and strengthening the mind. A clear, strong, balanced mind is an enormous asset during any type of psychic attack. So are your thoughts your own? Just to go back and forth here a little bit. We're in an era of time where some people don't have strong minds. And this is like a new topic for them. Some people are impressionable from all the sea of different websites. And they may not realize that just because there's a sea of all these different websites that seem to be speaking, right, in tongue, in chorus, right, saying the things that they're saying, it doesn't mean that they're tapped into the truth just because they're in agreement. It's more like a collective negative thought form that I think people need to be protecting themselves against. I think there's a lot of negative thought forms, almost spells. It's a big red flag when people start having dreams of politicians reaching out and dancing with them, things like that. Romantic dreams where they're hanging out with the president. Some people do think at times that maybe the souls of some of these presidential candidates and think not just of the present, but also the past. Obama appearing in dreams, maybe George Bush appearing in dreams. You may have a different or a unique perspective on dreams are all about, and you have the freedom to do that. There's different interpretations on dreams, but I think that there could be certainly a reason why a number of people by the millions would be having the same dream about certain presidents being anointed by angels. For example, Putin being blessed by angels, Putin and Trump being blessed by angels, like that particular narrative. Some people have literally had those types of visions, and they've posted what the Galactic Federation being bound to them. And like, this is a clear-cut case of people that act like they have psychic intuition, but we're really asking ourselves, those people that are posting at those forums that were catapulting that propaganda, the New Age propaganda of the Galactic Federation of Light. That's one example of that on kind of a more overt in your face. The mind is always active while you are awake. It can be likened to a huge message and reminder pad whose function is to keep you aware of everything going on around you. It chatters away constantly, reminding you of everything, continuously stating and restating the obvious, even making witty comments about everything. This is called the inner dialogue. We don't always notice these thoughts and images as they constantly flutter through our mind. So things can be implanted that we think are our own, could play a part in a narrative, and someone may not even know that. Okay, so this is one of the main areas of conversation that I wanted to bring to you tonight. Looking over at the comment section, James says, truth has to be a lifelong pursuit. It involves us not just exposing the elite, but exposing our better half, our better selves as we rise to the occasion, our destiny to do things, hopefully to evolve beyond this world. There is another book here, but I don't want to jump back and forth right now. But I believe in taking knowledge from various spiritual texts. This is demonized in our world, as I spoke about in a recent video. So there are people that still carry the spirit of the Inquisitor, of the Conquistador, the Inquisition. There are people in our day and age that are still coming to us, cursing us in the name of the Old Testament. We are not going to give that energy and attention. But it really causes one to really pinch themselves. Like, what kind of a matrix is this? Where throughout time, for thousands of years, right? And it's at that moment, can we get a sixth? Are we going to get a sixth? We're going to go sixth? You notice that moments where 3 people drop off at the exact same second. We're talking about unplugging from that old world of control. You notice that? Do you feel that? Because that's ultimately what this is about. It's not just about pointing our finger at the supposed Ali. It's about being self-responsible for these systems of oppression that are all around us, that people are holding up. There are people that think that the good old red, white, and blue is a symbol of protection, spiritual protection. And I don't believe that it is. I don't believe that we should be cursing it or getting in fights in the street, but to believing that it's a religious symbol, ooh, that's not a good sign of a strong body, mind, and spirit. So attention shifting and mental blocks. And thank you for the thumb ups. A useful countermeasure against the mental aspects of psychic attack is to shift your attention away from it. Unplug from that object of intrusion. Don't be feeding into somebody that's trolling the hell out of you, telling you your life has no value, telling you that your videos have no value. If they don't like your content, they don't like their content. They made their line in the sand. It's done. You can see there's a lot of energy. I remember my friend Bill, old friend Bill, is fun hanging out with him in Portland. And but the comment section is a good way to connect, and the internet, right? But there's the dark side of it too. What feels good can also feel not so good very quickly.